We going live right now.
Yeah, we live right now. We're gonna be on live on like all these platforms on Facebook, YouTube, and and Instagram. So we there though. We live in effect, man. So Shalom. Got my brother back in here, man. Supposed to have the other chairman on here, but I guess he got something going on. I don't know what happened. But I got you here. There's gonna be many more. In the direction that we going with the NGO. Let me just elaborate. The NGO in itself, what I'm saying, we built this NGO so we can be able to be an important vessel to be able to unite our people. Underneath a declaration as Hebrew Israelites. What I'm saying, and then be able to be recognized as a nation by the world governments. And building these institutions to be solidified as a nation. So this is the direction the NGO is going in, and I feel like Demona is already on that path and already doing that. So there's no reason to recreate the wheel. It just need to add on to the wheel, what I'm saying, and really work together. What I'm saying. So with that being said, my brother, this is the Children's Bread NGO podcast, and I'm glad to have Ashriel back on here, man. My brother from another mother, but the same
Man,
father, Jacob.
yes. Hey, man, I'm so happy to be back on with you. It took us a minute to be able to really get this going,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm honored to be able to get back on here with my big brother and have this opportunity really to, sit down and to just kind of delve into these topics a little more, unpack it and see what it is that we can be able to come up with. And congrats on the podcast, bro. And on the move that you're making down there, which are absolutely important for us and for our people. So, I'm proud of you, man.
Man, I appreciate it, man. Tell the people about the work that you do. What I'm saying, your titles and what you got going on before we go into these questions. Tell the people. They
So
already
I,
some of the viewers already familiar with you from the past, work that we did. But elaborate to the people, you know.
well, Malcolm always said you got to make it plain, because for me, I'm just a servant to the people, and I allow myself to be used as a vessel in every which way to be able to, number one, amplify the voices of our people on this end, to work for the unification of our people wherever they are, and to be able to
Mm-hmm.
take these ideas of community, of family, of nation, and to actually implement them in a way where it could be impactful for our people, and
Mm-hmm.
it could be something that actually serves our people and the
Mm-hmm.
interests that we have. And so my work is really just taking, the foundation for what we built here in Dimona in Israel, and seeing how we can be able to replicate a lot of those things. So, I want to make sure that I continue to highlight, the process that we had to go through to get to where we are right now, but also continue to build bridges and build new relationships
Mm-hmm.
with allies and with other people who could be able to be assistant to us on this path. So I try and put myself in that way to be used as a vessel in all of those which areas where I believe that is very important for us and for our people. So that's just the long and short of it. For me, is more about how could we be able, or what do we need to do to
Mm-hmm.
see our people rise, and whatever it is that the role that I need to play, and in that process, I just want to play my role to the best of my ability. So
Definitely.
if I'm able to do so, then I know that my life is not in vain, and I'll continue moving in that path because I think that if everybody do at least the portion that they were given to do, then we can be successful. But as soon as everybody is trying to go into other people's lanes, then that's where we become problem. Well, that's where it becomes problematic, but also we become competitive as
Yeah.
opposed to working together for a common cause.
Nah, most definitely, man. Most definitely. It's about working together. We need autonomy, we need We need this, even if we not the ones to fully, bring it together, we can be the ones that spark the minds of those who's going to bring it together. You know what I'm saying? So this work has to be done and we have to be diligent about it, taking risks to do this work. You know what I'm saying? I'm with you, man. I'm with you, my brother. So let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this. And when I get to Israel, we're gonna kick it. We're gonna
Let's
kick it.
go.
We're
Oh,
gonna
we're
kick
waiting for
it.
you. I mean, I already told you on the phone, don't threaten me with a good time. Come on over here, brother. Let's get it in.
We're gonna get it in, man. From East Africa to Northeast Africa. So
Yes, sir.
now let me ask you this. The world is waiting for chosen ones or the anointed ones to unite, and if this is a true statement, if this is a true statement, when I say anointed ones and chosen ones, I mean, this can be any nationality, dealing with people who just want to make a difference in this world. But we know as Hebrew Israelites, we supposed to be the ones leading that car, leading that movement. Or I want to call it a movement, but leading that lifestyle. So now, let me ask you this. So the world is waiting on these anointed ones or these people that just want to make a difference. Is this a true statement? And if yes, or if no, to just explain, elaborate to the people. Ashriel, elaborate to them, man.
One thing when you look at all of the scriptures and the holy text of the religions. When you look at the Torah and you look at the Christian Bible and you look at the
Mm-hmm.
Quran and you look at a lot of other texts, one thing that they always really emphasize is the return of the Messiah, the Mahdi, the Christ, as they would refer to who they see as that chosen person. And everybody is actually saying and expecting for an individual to return. And then somehow, once
Mm-hmm.
that individual returned, then everything is supposed to just kind of pan out the way it
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
But I think that's a flawed understanding of
Mm-hmm.
uh, of messiahship,
Mm-hmm.
messianic, the
Mm-hmm.
idea of what a messiah is supposed to represent or anointed one. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you look at it from the Hebraic perspective, a Messiah is simply one who's been brought under the direct command of God. And
Mm-hmm.
when you come under that direct command of God, that means that all of those attributes that represent that Godship then becomes a part of you. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
able then to take those and to use them in a positive way to be able to create that positive change that everybody's looking for. And
Yeah.
so when you understand that your job as a person who is anointed and who's brought under that direct commandship of God is to
Mm-hmm.
take those principles and to implement them in the lives of the people and to provide an alternative way to what has been presented up until now that could be able to bring different results, then you would understand it, from a more practical perspective. Now, the Hebraic aspect says that not only was there one Messiah, but there were many Messiahs in different time spans that had different jobs. You had the messiahs who were the kings. You had the messiahs who were the prophets. You had the messiahs who were the other anointeds of God. So everybody, there were a lot of messiahs who were coming in to provide this alternative lifestyle and to show the people where they had strayed and to bring them back to the straight and narrow so that they can be able to then continue to move in a direction where when God says, I've given you two choices, but then I want you to choose life and live. But you could choose the other side as well. I mean, I'm giving you that
Mm-hmm.
choice. Now, I'm just letting you know what are going to be the consequences for you choosing the
Mm-hmm.
other one. But it's on you. But a lot of people today are really, we don't want to take on any responsibility for
Mm-hmm.
the life that we live and for the conditions of life that we have found ourselves in. So we always look into some outer source to be able
Mm-hmm.
to put the blame over there, so that we wouldn't have to look within ourselves to be able to bring solutions that we already have within ourselves. But God has given
Yeah.
us everything that we need, all the tools to be able to actually bring a change. I mean, when it says that ye are
Yeah.
all God's children of the Most High God, that's real. That means that we have all of those attributes in us, and all we have to do is
Mm-hmm.
just connect to ourselves and then implement those in a way where we could be able to now be able to change the trajectory from where it's going right now to, to where we want it to actually be. So
Yeah.
everybody, yes, people want to see a difference in the world. People
Mm-hmm.
are yearning for something better. People understand that this world right now, the way that it's going under the rulership of Europe and America is not the way. But that's the dominant narrative at this moment. And so everybody's trying to align themselves with a sinking ship. But we see
Yeah.
that this world order as it is right now is
Mm-hmm.
sinking. But now we have a different understanding also of that world changing and how things are not going to be as they are right now. When we the world is not going to remain as it is right now. Something is going to come and exchange or move this world out of place, and something else is going to be put in place. But the question is then, where will we find ourselves? Are we going to find ourselves on the side of the change that is coming, or are we going to find ourselves still stuck in the old ways, and then we're going to get taken right down with the other trajectory? So
Yeah.
at this point in time, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's looking and hoping for something else, for something better,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
we don't have enough belief in ourselves and in what has been given to us to know that we have all of the answers within ourselves. All we have
Mm-hmm.
to do is just dig within, understand what are the things that we'd like to change, and
Mm-hmm.
then that creative mind that we have will allow us to be able to create those environments that will be able to bring that change. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, people are waiting. People they'll be waiting until until they die because nobody's coming to save you. You have
Yeah.
to save yourself. You've been given all of the tools. You've been given a creative mind. You've
Mm-hmm.
been given the God spirit to be able to implement change. And if you're
Yeah.
waiting on somebody to come or something to come from outer space or a person from thousands of years ago, and then all of a sudden something is just about to change like poof, then you're living in a mystery. But you're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna realize that you've been duped. So
Mm-hmm.
it's either we take it upon ourselves to be the change that we'd like to see,
Mm-hmm.
or we can continue to live in this current condition and just keep going down, down, down until the gap just gets too wide and there's no way we can be able to save ourselves any longer. So that's just the long
Yeah.
of it.
No, I mean, I'm with you on. I mean, the kingdom is within us. So if we can understand that, then we got to be the ones that bring forth this thing. We got to bring forth this thing. We have to, do this. We have to do this. Speaking about, messiahs and saviors and things like that. I know you familiar with Obadiah, what I'm saying, chapter well, it's only one chapter, chapter 1, verse 21, dealing with saying that and Savior shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the Mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's. So, we have to get out of our comfortability, and be willing to stand up for, our nation, be willing to stand up, for what we believe
Hey, hey,
in,
hey.
what I'm saying? We have to be willing to definitely do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the goal. That's the thing right there. We have to be willing to do that. And if we're not willing to do that, then what's gonna take place? Nothing's gonna happen. We're gonna stay in this condition, and it's gonna get worse and worse in these conditions, and nothing is gonna change. But the world around us is gonna change for the worse instead of for the better, because we're supposed to be the ones, to make that change. I'm with you, bro. I'm with you on that. Brother Benaya just came in. This is the chairman in Tanzania. He's the chairman in Tanzania with the NGO. What's up, brother Benaya? How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Think it's a delay. I apologize for that. How y'all doing?
Hey man, we all good, my brother. How you feeling?
I'm feeling blessed. I don't know if
Man,
can y'all see me well?
Yeah, we
I
can see
don't know.
you. We can see you,
it's a
Okay.
man.
bit dark because I think the contrast with the lighting behind you is kind of darking you
Okay.
up a little bit. But I mean, we are dark skinned people, so we good.
Okay, right. All right. Okay, yeah.
Definitely,
Well,
man.
like the brother Palau said, I'm Benaya. I'm down here in Tanzania. Um, and yeah, we're looking to set up here. Matter of fact, I was supposed to go deal with some lawyers today, but I had some things get in the way of that. But yeah, that's what it is down here. I just want to know, hey man, I apologize for my tardiness as well. You know, I had some things going on, so I apologize for that as well.
Oh, nah, no worries, bro. No worries, man. Hey, man, we still gonna do this work. You here? You still here? So we good. We good. Everything good. I just wanted to put it on y'all platform also in Tanzania, but I can download it later and then we can do it that way. You know, but now, let me move on to this next question right here. Let me move on to this question. So this directed to you, Ashriel. I want you to, pretty much explain to the people when it comes to this right here. Now, can you explain to the viewers about the results that Dimona, has when it comes to developing our own institutions as the children of Israel? Elaborate to the people, about that. Can you do that for me?
So one thing that I think is important to always go back to the beginning. And the beginning wasn't the easiest, right? When we arrived to Israel, we were actually looking initially to be part of the institutions that were already in place. Because everybody who was migrating to Israel, they were being accepted into mainstream, and then they had access to all the institutions. So they had access to the schools, and they had access to the health institutions. They were able to work, and a lot of those things. So most people didn't come with that appetite needing to be able to create for themselves, because they were able to simply depend on the systems that were already in place. But us coming from America and from Liberia and coming into Israel and initially being accepted and then being rejected afterwards, then we started to realize that if we are going to create something for ourselves, then we'll have to take that responsibility on ourselves, because those institutions were not actually, accepting of us. And so because they weren't accepting of us, then we realized that, and I think that's one of the best things that we could do. That's why I've always been against, for example, the integration in America and in other places, because so long as we were forced out of the systems, then we so long as we were forced out of the systems, then it forced us then to have to create for ourselves and be dependent on ourselves and to invest in ourselves and to grow, our own internal institutions and our own businesses, and to put back into our communities. And then it caused us to be more accountable to one another. But as soon as those, the integration in America and other places allowed us then access to all the other institutions, and it's like, not only did we forget about our institutions, but we also allowed them to just die off, and we were running to all the other ones to be able to strengthen other people's institutions, put money in their pockets, and to continue to build up their world. So in Dimona, what we did was we realized that if we're going to live, then we'll have to create that environment for us to be able to live. And so when we couldn't access the health centers, then we said, okay, well, what do we need to do? Well, the first thing we need to do is to adopt a diet and a lifestyle that would prevent us from needing to go to these health institutions to be able to get, healthcare or whatever. Let's build up our bodies in such a way where we won't need to be bothered with the doctors. Let's develop for ourselves, a platform where we can be able to deliver our own babies in natural birth with a low mortality rate, right? Let's create our own internal jobs so that we could be able to then allow ourselves to, we'll provide work to one another, and we'll keep that money flowing within the community. Let's create we want to take our own the responsibility of us creating our own educational institution. So we'll build our own school, and then we'll implement, in that school, the curriculum that we see best fits what it is that we're looking to develop in our children. Let's create ministries internally so that we can be able to have a working government, that will allow us to not just, be all over the place, but we can be able to centralize, the working ethic, and we can be able to create, institutions and governments that will be able to allow everybody to work in an orderly fashion, right? We can be able to put people in place who are most competent in their areas of operation, so that they can be able to deliver for us in those areas. So let's do all of these things so that we won't have to be dependent on external sources. We can be able to do everything that we need for ourselves internally. Yes, we could be able to, receive donations. Yes, we can be able to, do business outside the community. But so long as we are the ones who are in full charge of, of how we're coming to the table, at a level playing field. Right. We're not coming to the table, at a disadvantage and then allowing others to be able to take advantage of the fact that we don't really have nothing that we can be able to produce. So we have, two of the premier vegan factories in Israel that produce all of the or most of the vegan food to all of, to all of Israel. We people come down to Dimona to understand our lifestyle choices as far as the holistic, health, to understand how is it that we have people who are 95 years of age walking around as if they're 30 and 40 and 50 and 60. Right? They want to understand how is the mortality rate so low when delivering naturally without epidural and without all the other procedures. Right? I mean, obviously, if there's a necessity for that, then we're going to allow the system to be able to get that. But they really want to understand how is it that during COVID, I mean, first, second, third strand, not one, person contracted COVID. They really want to understand how do we manage to be able to do these things. And so those internal institutions allowed us to be able to be in full charge of our lives. And now that we're in full charge of our lives, we then have the responsibility to be able to provide and produce something that can be an alternative to a life that we see as continuing to a world that's continuing to decline. So while that world is declining, and while so many people, are being, I mean, 10 of the most chronic ailments that African Americans experience in America, considering the fact that majority of our parents and our grandparents came from America to Israel, we don't, in our generation, we don't know anything about those. Right? We created, an environment for peaceful relations, and institutions like the Dr. Martin Luther King SCLC Ben Ami Institute for New Humanity, right, focusing on conflict resolution through peaceful means, right? So we don't have to deal with drive-by shootouts and unnecessary arguments and those things, because we have other ways to be able to approach this life in ways where it could be more productive for us. We have, our own institutions where we can be able to sew our own clothes. Or, we have, stores that we provide our own organic foods. We grow some of our own foods. We've taken this model and we've implemented it in other places in the world to be able to see if this model is just a one-stop shop in Israel, or is it something that could be able to actually produce more in other places. And we have managed to succeed with that. And we've taken this idea of a village. When we were talking about a village, people weren't in the world, that wasn't really a thing. I mean, besides rural places and on the continent and other places in the world, but nobody was really thinking about this idea of a village. Now today, more and more and more, you see people starting to turn to the idea of collective living, understanding the kind of effect and impact it has on psychology of people, on the growth and development of children. We developed this concept of a community, or we went back to the concept of a community that has always been part of us. So all these institutions that we built, we initially built them because we didn't have another choice. But then we realized how important it was that we did take our own destiny in our own hands and develop these institutions, so that when we see how the world is declining in a lot of these areas, we're continuing to rise. So we want to disconnect from a lot of these institutions. We don't want money to be the central, component of our lifestyle. We don't want, this idea of what they call higher education, that you go and you study for, for 4 years, and you get in debt $200,000, and now the rest of your life you're just working to return that debt, and they didn't really give you no practical skills and tools to be able to deal with life. We don't want that. So we have all of our internal institutions that allow us to be able to actually get those, practical things that could be able to allow us to really live this life, in a way where we see is most beneficial to us. So that's just, internally, that's how we managed to be able to go from being totally dependent on the world to being interdependent on each other, and then being able to then deal with the world from a position of power as opposed to from a position of need.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've been to Israel. I've seen the results. I see the results over here in Kenya. I see the results. It got results in South Africa. We got results in Ghana. In different places. I see the results, and I see the outcome of this. I'm a visionary, so I see things thousands of miles away before what I'm saying. Most people can see it. So I see these things, and I see these things, and how if we come together, we can amplify these things, we can escalate these things to a higher level, and really, get this autonomy that we need, really get what we seek, and putting destiny back into our own hands. What I'm saying? Another brother just came on, this brother Anai, he's a part of the NGO too. And I want you to get familiar with these brothers, because when you come back on this platform, these brothers, be the brothers that's going to be with me, doing the work and things like that. And they in different parts of Africa, that I want to be working with the Mona community that's in different parts of Africa also, what I'm saying? Want to bridge this work, want to really work together instead of just talk about it and all that. Because people, we allow doctrine to keep us divided so much to the point that we think we think that's the all in all, we think that's the all in all right there, but that's not. It's not. Now I'm about to go back to another question, right? And this is a controversial question, and we're gonna let you speak on it first, and then I want the other brother to chime in on it also. Now, this question right here, this is going back to the Messiah thing, okay? To the Messiah thing, because now for people who believe in, Jesus as the Messiah, or Yeshua, as the Messiah, okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but let's act out what Yeshua is talking about, let's act out, as a nation of Messiah. Let's act that out, because people believe that Yeshua is coming back, and that's okay. That's okay if people believe that, but he's coming back for what? What he's coming back to? What we got going on? What he's gonna come back to? Nothing. So how is that gonna be fulfilled if we ain't fulfilling what we're supposed to fulfill on our end? What I'm saying? So it comes to a point where we just counterproductive, and it's not right. It's not right. It's not right. So let me ask this question right here. Now, our people are always looking for this one main leader, which is not wrong with. But instead of waiting on this one main leader, let's just establish a one main government structure among us. What's your take on that? And please elaborate.
So you want me to talk about it from the perspective of a messianic personage, or just generally, the structure of leadership?
You can do both. Yeah.
So the structural leadership. One thing about leadership is that leaders have to know how to rise above a lot of the challenges that we have with trying to unite and to work together for a common goal and a common cause. But unfortunately, this is something that's always been an issue, amongst us. I mean, you go all the way back to the days of Moses, and you had Korah and Dathan, who was telling him, like, you're not the only person that God talked to now. Come on, and then later on you had others who were not really in agreement with a lot of the leaders that God had sent to us to deliver us from the state that we were in, and to produce something else. Now, we have an issue with working together, because everybody really want to pour to their direction. Everybody think that what they're saying is the truth, and there is no other truth. Now, I see it as everybody have a portion to play, a part to play in the great scheme of things. But until we realize what is the portion that we are responsible for playing, and then allow others to be able to come in and bring their part into the midst, and then work together for a common cause, then we will continue to be divided and be conquered. That's one. I mean, when you talk about Jim Crow, the Jim Crow laws, and you talk about what was laid out, in the Jim Crow laws, or these ideas that let's allow these people to be divided and to be conquered, and we'll implement things, or we'll plant seeds, in their midst, to cause them to remain divided, to never allow them to be able to work as a unit, because they're looking and focusing so much on the differences that they have, as opposed to building on the foundations of things that they have in common. We've always had a problem with continuing to single out the differences, as opposed to working on the commonalities. And so as a result of that, we haven't really been productive. You look at any other group of people on this earth, you see how they work together for a common cause. You see how they have no problem with pooling their resources. You see how, ego is set aside, and it's not really about who's the brightest, and but it's who's the most competent. Whose area of expertise this is, to allow that person to be able to do what he needs to do. Nobody have a problem with that but us. We always want to be at the forefront. Every one of us believe that what we're saying is the truth, and there is no other truth. And so long as we maintain that that way of operation, it prevents us from being able to move forward. It prevents us from being able to unite and walk together. And a lot of times we also get that concept of unity wrong. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. Unity doesn't mean that we all have to think the same, work the same, do the same thing. I mean, you have 9 systems, right, in your body. Every one of the systems do something different. Now, if you have one of the systems that's doing something that the other system is supposed to be doing, then that means you have a vacancy in that area now, and that's opening to sicknesses and diseases. But if every one of those systems is doing exactly precisely what they have been built to do, then you see an entire working body. The problem is that our body is sick. Our body is sick because everybody is not really working those systems. All of those systems are not doing their job. They're not doing their responsibility. And that subsequently, if one of the systems are off, it affects the entire body itself. And so none of the other systems could be able to kick in to be able to do what one system is not doing. And as a result of that, we see that our body is sick, and it's prevented us for so long from being able to make any strides towards some type of change for ourselves, because we're more interested in who's right, who's wrong, the doctrines, who should be the leader, who should be in charge, who should be doing such and such, as opposed to, okay, Pala, this is your area of expertise. Okay, no problem. Benaiah, you do that. We don't need you over here doing what Pala is doing. Ashriel, this is what you are competent in. This is what you went to school for. This is what you have the skills set for. This is what you have the desire to do. Not a problem. I'm not going to get in your area of expertise, but I need you to do what you're supposed to be doing, Palal, while Benaiah is doing what he's supposed to do, and Ashriel is doing what he's supposed to do. And now all 3 of us is doing what we're supposed to do. And so you see then a functional working body that is operating, because all the systems are doing exactly what each of those systems are supposed to do. And so until we get to that point, then we'll continue to be a sick body. And we see that this sick body is something that continues to decay. And so 1 or 2 things happen with a sick body. It's either you nurse it back to health by doing what is necessary, first of all, by diagnosing the issue. Once you diagnose the issue, now we can be able to then provide remedies to be able to deal with that issue. Now, if we don't provide the proper remedies to deal with that issue, then we'll continue to decay, and then ultimately you're just going to die out. You don't have another choice. And so if the body dies, then all that's going to happen is what? We're going to continue to decay. And then ultimately you're just going to die out. You don't have another choice. And so if the body dies, then all that's going to happen is what? We're going to continue to decay. And then ultimately you're just going to die out. You don't have another choice. And so if the body dies, then all that's going to happen is what? we're just going to have to pass on that same sickness to another generation, because the sickness doesn't just disappear. It's not just going to evaporate and then another generation is going to come and everything's going to be okay. No, they're going to inherit that sickness that we have in our body. And as a matter of fact, if you know anything about sicknesses and diseases, if you don't deal with it, it continues to spread and it gets worse. So we're getting worse as a result of us not properly dealing with the sickness that our body is experiencing. And so all we're going to do is continue to pass that on to another generation. It's not by happenstance if we look at our people today and we see that in every aspect, in every area, in every place in the world, we are at the bottom. That's not by happenstance. That's something that that has been, obviously, yes, is been engineered, but at the same time, we have to also recognize what our responsibility has been in keeping us at the bottom. The crab in the barrel is not nobody from the outside coming and forcing us to stay down. The crab in the barrel means that we are preventing each other from being able to succeed, because we don't realize the importance of us locking arms together to work together so that one person can get out of the barrel and then the next person can get out the barrel. And then we think that whoever's trying to get out the barrel, now they're going to succeed. Now they're going to leave all of us behind. And, we'll be here for the rest of our lives. So no, we're not going to, as a matter of fact, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. That's been the idea. So unfortunately, this has been a major hindrance to us being able to move forward. And as a result of that, we remain in the same place. Oh, as a matter of fact, no, you can't remain in the same place. We continue to go backwards. So that's my thinking on that.
Yeah, man. Nah, I'm with you on that one. I'm with you on that. I had to switch but y'all can still see me. So the thing is, now that's what you said is very, very important, bro. Very, very important. It sounds like we like a deflated government, a deflated body, like you get one of the body functioning, in that going towards that direction. Then you got another body not functioning in that direction. You know what I'm saying? So it's becoming crazy, It's becoming crazy. All right, so
just want to give you a heads up. I need to go in a little while. So just.
All right, okay. All right, cool. Now let me now anybody else want to chime in on that? Let me read that question again. So our people are always looking for this one main leader, which is nothing wrong with. But instead of waiting for this one main leader, let's just establish our one main government structure among us. Anybody else want to speak on that?
I may. Best Nine, you can go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead, bro. Trust me.
Okay, no, I just wanted to, I didn't properly introduce myself earlier. I was in a rush trying to get set up. So, like I said, shalom to the brother Ashriel over there. I'm Benaiah out of Tanzania down here. But yeah, our people, he said something that I found that stood out. He said, we have to diagnose the issue, right? We have an issue in the body. And if we can't make a proper diagnosis concerning it, it can't be fixed. You understand? So I believe the diagnosis, from what I was gathering from what the brother was speaking, the diagnosis of us is that, it's a pride issue as a whole, right? We have a pride issue. Everybody want to be the one carrying the baton. Nobody want to pass it. Everybody just want to, take the baton and run and be that one guy that said this or did that, and they can beat his chest. So we got a pride issue. We had a system set up and put in place for us. And instead of allowing each other to shine in the areas that they shine in so that we can get out of it, we would rather stay proud within those, within that system that was set in place for us. So that's what I would like to say. Now, everybody, and that may not answer the question. Like you said, everybody's waiting for this one guy. But that one guy that they read about, he didn't have no pride. You know, he wasn't acting the way that our people are acting out there. You know, you got these leaders in place, so-called leaders over these churches or whatever you want to call them, and they got beef with the other leaders. So what you think that's going to do? That's going to trickle down to the parishioners, the people who, who belong to the churches that these people go to. So I think that's the issue, the main issue. I don't think we're going to have a huge hand in things that we trying to do, because like you said, that's a problem that was spread like a cancer, because especially if you got these people who are in place, who leaders, and people are looking up to them, and they just get gaining that information and inspiration from these people, they're not going to do nothing but continue the same process.
No doubt, no doubt. Hey, Ashriel, man, we got just 2 more questions. All right, I know you got to run. We just got 2 more questions. Let's try to do this out. So
Nah.
I think Inaya wanted to.
Go ahead, Anaya. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Real quick. I'm sorry. Shalom to the panel. Sorry for my voice. You know where I'm at. It's like the wee hours of the morning. But I agree 100%. I agree, 100% with what the brother said. Also, I would like to add that I definitely disagree with us looking for a leader, meaning like as in like one person, one man. It's best for leadership or power to be decentralized. That way, just like the brother said, you got people in different areas and different avenues, different industries, or just people in general, should I say, that's working on, particular things or particular field that's apt to work in that field, and they have the wherewithal to work in that field. If you see somebody sweeping the house and the house is relatively small, there's no need for you to pick up a broom too and start sweeping the house. It might be some dishes that's dirty. Go bust some suds. Go do them dishes. You know what I'm saying? Go clean the basement or something. Get a what you call it, a duster, and you know what I'm saying, get the cobwebs out the corner or whatever. Also, when you think about the Book of Samuel, when like we seek a leader, but a leader has usually been to our detriment in Israel, because the leaders that we desire is usually leaders that's not set up by the Most High. So I feel like it's important for us to do our job with the centralized power right now. Everybody play, their particular areas, and we wait for the Messiah, the one that's unto Moses, to come. You know what I'm saying? You can't go wrong with that. Whether, and see, this the thing, just like the brother said too. It was something he said that I wanted to speak to. Pretty much, like this. I'm done. I can't. Lost my train of thought.
That's all good, bro. But now what you're saying is key, man. Everybody don't need to sweep the house if the house is already being swept. But we work on our parts, play our parts, you know what I'm saying? Play our parts and build these things that we need to build as a nation. All right. So now let me ask this question right here. So now, are we too divided to even come together to change the political, spiritual, economic, injustice dynamics of the world? Are we too divided to even do that? You know what I'm saying? Are we too divided to do that? Ashriel, how you feel about that, my brother? And can you elaborate?
I don't think that we're too divided to do that. I think it's just, again, a matter of desire and setting aside the pride and doing what we need to do for the greater good of the whole. And as soon as, because we put people on a pedestal and then we allow them to make decisions for the whole, and we don't understand that they're people just like we are. And the decisions, a lot of times that they make, they're trying to make decisions that they feel is more beneficial to them and to the sect that they represent, and to the group that they represent. So they're not really looking for the greater good of the whole. They say they are, but they want to speak to their constituencies first, right? And then everybody else, because I have this little crew over here, and I know, like the brother Benaiah was saying about the church, I mean, you have the church leaders that they say that they, for the people, but they want to make sure, first of all, that those 200, 300, 400,000, 200,000, or 200 people part of their church, they want to make sure that they're satisfying them first, right? And so some of the things that may satisfy them is not necessarily good for the whole, right? But if you don't understand it, sometimes you have to make sacrifices and you have to make decisions that may not necessarily be popular decisions, but they are prophetic and good decisions that later on you could be able to then see the type of effect that it had on the people, as opposed to trying to be popular in the midst of the people and saying and doing things that are not in the greater good of the whole, but you're not willing to step out there and to do these things because you don't want to lose that constituency that you have. That's the issue. We're not that divided. I mean, each time we come and we sit down and we talk, there's been this concept that we agree on way more than we disagree, but the majority of our focus is on that little bit that we disagree on, as opposed to the greater part or portion that we agree on. If we just set aside for a moment the disagreements and the ego, and then look at what's best for all of us, you could clearly be able to see leaders from all walks of life coming together to be able to provide an alternative, or a better way for all of us that they know and we know could be more effective for us. But they're not looking at it like that. And so as a result, most people have become consent, right? With contempt, sorry, with their position. Right? I'm content in my position. I'm not going to move to the left or to the right. I'm not going to do anything that is out of the ordinary. I'm not going to do too much. I'm going to do just enough to be able to say that I did something. That's what politicians do all the time. Politicians, they give you a little bit just to say that I started doing something and I need the next 4 years so that I can be able to continue it. And then they do a little something also at the tail end of that position. And also in the church and in business, everybody give you just a little bit to be able to give you, to open up your appetite and then keep you coming. That little you put the cheese on the string, right? And you keep pulling it back a little bit, so that you can continue to bring people closer to you. And you're giving them the illusion that they're right at the cusp. We just about to make it. And then, oops, something happened, and we just had to move the goalpost a little bit. My belief is that when you look at all of us separately, all of us are talking about the same thing. We're talking about the necessity for coming together. We're talking about the importance of uniting. We're talking about, the alternative lifestyle that we need. We're talking about the decadent position, and condition that our people is in. We're talking about the need for change. All of us are talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. And we're talking about the same people as well. The difference is the methodology and how to go about it. And until we sit down and think about a methodology that works best for all of us, as opposed to just trying to help, your constituency move forward, we won't be able to do anything. That's going to take a lot of work. And it's nothing that just developed today. It's something that we've been dealing with as Israel for the longest. Every opportunity, I mean, after King Solomon died, immediately separation, Judah and Israel, right? We're gonna go this way immediately, and then within, after, during the times of Yeshua, right? You had the Essenes and the these people and these people, and I mean, why can't we just work together as one unit? Because these people believe that we should be operating this way. These people believe that we should be operating this way. These people say that God said this, but these people interpret what God said as this. And now nobody's willing to work with each other because we believe that if we start to work with each other, then we'll be compromising on our values, we'll be compromising on our position, and we'll be looking like the weak ones if what we desired is not accepted. We have to then yield to somebody else. And if we yield to somebody else, then it's almost like we're giving them, the position of leadership, and now we have to submit to them, and none of us are willing to submit. And so as a result of that, we will much prefer to always be in disagreement as opposed to feeling that we had to submit to somebody else.
Yeah, now what you're saying is right on. A house divided would not stand. And one thing I want to say, like, if we don't know our history, then we don't know what to learn from our history to move forward in the future. All right. We seen the division that was back then in biblical time, and and then during the first century, as we seen the division, we studied the division. You know what I'm saying? I think God wants us to learn from that, use that in this society, and create that in a better way without all that division. We can be in our separate groups, but we can work together to complete a goal. We can do that. You know what I'm saying? We the only nation that can't that just won't really do that. We, what I'm saying? Like ever since our fall, like you said, ever since Solomon, ever since the split of the kingdom, it just kept trickling down, trickling down, trickling down to where we at now. You know, so it has to stop, and it has to be like-minded people like us, spreading that message, doing our part, liberating the people, because that's what they need real liberation. They need that they mind spark. They need to understand this, and the only way they can do it by us doing this work and showing results, and it's important. Let me see the other brothers want to chime in on this. Then we just got one more question. So are we too divided to even come together, to change this political, spiritual, economic, injustice system of this world? Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I don't think we too divided at all either. I don't think we too divided. Once again, the brother said something key. He said we don't like to submit, right, to one another. Now that's an issue. There's another issue, another diagnosis the brother made there. You know what I'm saying? We need to learn how to submit ourselves one to another. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you may have a vision I can't see. Sometimes I may have a vision you can't see, right? And we got to learn to submit ourselves one to another concerning certain things, man. We get too touchy, especially and see, I understand now from just being, a few years I've been here, that when people get in that type of spirit, it's really that they not in agreement. They want to be over the whole. That's the whole thing, right? So that's another diagnosis, man. That I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, we got a problem submitting ourselves one to another, man. It's a lot of opportunists around us as well. A lot of people who would like to, they'll see you doing something that could benefit something that they got going on, and they'll jump on and hang on board until they stop coming. They jump off like, oh, they're gonna stop, and they roll out. So we got a lot of that going on too. So, but no, I don't think we too divided. I think we just gotta be more wise in our dealings when it comes to certain people with certain agendas. We got to be able to spot them out, peep it out, and keep on moving with the brothers and sisters who are willing to keep this thing moving. That's what I think. I don't think we divided.
For sure, definitely, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's real. Now you want to say something, or you good? We'll move on to the next question. Night. You hear me at night? If not,
Yeah, I can. I would just say, I don't know if I want to say that we're too divided, but what I would say is that it's definitely going to be a small, minute number of us that actually choose to unite. I know that. I think we're too prideful. We're definitely too prideful to unite. For the majority of us. So I think it'll be like a remnant of us. It'll be like a very small number of us that actually. I mean, even when you read the scriptures, when we talk about, being in the wilderness and things like that, the third of Israel. So a lot of us, what I'm saying, we're not going to choose to unite and things like that.
All right
And
on,
even once
bro.
we, you know what I'm saying, even when we in the same area, tell you the rebels going to be there. I think it's going to be a small number of us that actually choose. I think we could do it, but I think we too prideful. And I think the same way, I think it's going to happen out of necessity for real, for real. I think we too hard headed to do it by ourselves. You're going to have the he goats that go out first before the flock and do it. But for a lot of us, it's going to have to be out of necessity. It's going to be a situation to where we don't have a choice but to unite, literally, which really is already the time is now. But we don't understand that because, you know, you can still buy things, you know what I'm saying, cheap. People don't really see the dangers that's going on around them right now. So really, it ain't gonna happen till stuff really hit the fan that is really gonna force our people to unite.
Nah, for sure, for sure. You know what I mean? And since you know this the last question right here, and you know, y'all mentioned pride, Benaya mentioned pride, and Naya mentioned pride. You know, and it's important. So you know, I wanna ask you know the whole panel. You know, this last question. You know, and Ashriel, you can go first. You know, you the guest, my brother. But when you come back on, you ain't a guest no more. Nah, that's it. But now, but what's the biggest problem that's keeping the children of Israel from coming together as a nation to creating these institutions so we can be recognized by the world powers as a real nation again? You know, what's the biggest problem according to you, Ashriel? What's the biggest problem?
Well, I mean, I think we just answered that in the other questions. You know, the fact that we have an issue with submitting each other, the pride that we have amongst each other, um, the the lack of understanding of who is most competent to do what, and to allow them to do what they need to do, as opposed to us trying to dictate how things are going to go based on where we believe they need to be as opposed to where they actually need to be. Um, the lack of vision, united vision, right? Everybody have their own, you know, separate ideas and probably even see things down the line, but we don't have one united vision for where are we trying to go. There are a lot of ways to get to one place. You know, there are a lot of things that we can be able to do to be able to get there, but we don't have a united vision of how to get there, and so we continue to kind of run around ourselves, right? My leader Ben Ami said one time that that his mother used to tell him, you know, to just keep on going down the road and things will get better, you know, things will get better down the road. But then he asked the question, how are things going to get better down the road if we're going down the wrong road? Things could never get better down the wrong road. And we've been going down the wrong road for so long that we have lost touch of what was the initial idea. We didn't forget what it is that we're even fighting for. Where are we even trying to get to? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? What is it we're trying to achieve? We've gotten so, you know, so caught up into how this world is operating, looking at us from an individualistic perspective. Everybody is all about me, 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 and so as a result of that, we don't have a nationalistic goal. We don't have nationalistic desires. We say it, yeah, we need to be a nation, but in actuality, we're not thinking in a nationalistic way. We're not striving to operate in a nationalistic way. We seem to be content again with where we are, but we want to pay lip service so that we can sound good, as opposed to actually doing something that could be able to bring, you know, an alternative to where we are right now. So I think those are the major problems, and these are not major issues that we can't overcome.
Yeah.
These are not major issues. The problem is that we don't put forth enough effort into change, and we don't really diagnose these things as the primary issues, and then put our full focus on trying to change these things that are the cancer in our body. We talking about something else that ain't even got nothing to do with nothing. You know, we talking about things that are so far away. You know, the problem us coming together is that we all need to move to one place, and we're talking about things that are not practical. And we
Yeah,
and I think that we're doing that. Really, we're trying to deflect, right,
yeah,
from the real issues, because we don't want to deal with the real issues head on. And the reason why, like Benai said, because people get real soft in the middle. You know, when you start talking about things that are really touching on them, because when you talk about the truth, then you're gonna be stepping on some feet.
hmm,
And we're not really trying to do that. So we walk in, all in between the eggs, as opposed to saying what needs to be said and then doing what needs to be to be done, in order to be able to bring some practical solutions to our people on a universal level, on a nationalistic level. And those are the primary hindrances that prevents us from being able to move forward. Once we put those things aside, right? And again, the last thing is the fact that we're focusing more on what divides us, as opposed to what brings us together, what commonalities we have. We have way more in common than we have that divides us, but we focus more of the attention on the things that divides us, as opposed to the things that we have in common. And
yeah,
so if we reverse that, we good to go.
yeah. You said a lot of key things, man. One thing that I want to touch on, you said, is the vision thing. Like, if you got a vision, I got a vision, but Naya got a vision, Anaya got a vision. We should be able to collectively put those visions together and be like, oh, this is the big picture. I see the big picture now, yo. I see the big picture. You know what I'm saying? Now let's act that out. But we too much like, oh, my vision is the only way. This is the only way. This is the only way. If this was the only way, then why do you have other governments doing 8 different ways? Like so it's crazy, man. It's crazy. The rest of y'all can chime in with this, so the question is, again, let me read it one more time. Now, what's the biggest problem that's keeping the children of Israel from coming together as a nation, you know what I'm saying, to develop, to actually do the things that we need to do? What's the biggest problem? What's the biggest issue? What'd you say, Benaiah?
Simply put, is our pride issue as a nation. Simply put, I'm gonna just say what the brother said earlier. He said, we have a problem submitting ourselves one to another. That's a problem. That's a problem, because what you just said that, okay, we have these visions. How can we make things happen as a whole when I feel like my vision is greater than yours, right? We can never come together if I continue to, try to prioritize myself over you. That's not brotherly love. And this another thing, man. What we talking about right here is brotherly love. You understand? Because um we speaking against those, or who operate in the prideful, posture, who could be a detriment to our nation, right? Um, so that's brotherly love. And I think people get away from brotherly love when they begin to think like the crabs in a bucket type of situation. Because what are you really willing to do to your brother? You know what? How far are you really willing to go so that you can stand out? That's the problem with our people. To the point where we start handing each other over, because we feel as though this person got something that I don't got, and it's all spiritual. So that's what I think it is. And let me say one thing before I get out of here. A lot of people talk about because we awake. Oh, the children of Israel awaken. Oh, the nations are scared, are afraid. Man, the nations ain't afraid of that. That ain't what they're afraid of. They're afraid of us coming together collectively with a goal. That's what they're afraid of. So all that they afraid of us because we know who we is, man, sit down somewhere. That's not that's not true. All right. So I just want to say that what we talking about here is what makes them afraid.
Yeah.
So,
Real talk, bro. Real talk. And now you where you at, brother? My brother? My brother. But yeah, man, like, what's the biggest problem? I know we mentioned things. I want to get your, you know what I'm saying, your last spill on it. Like, what's the biggest problem why we can't do this? Why we can't, do what we need to be done, to change this dynamics of the world, to fulfill prophecy? Why we can't do this, bro? What's the biggest problem?
I agree with what they said. I think it's pride, but I think another thing to put right next to pride, if not right up under it, I think it's a lack of comfortability due to having trust issues when it comes to one another. Because not, I feel like not everybody that would not be willing to unify is automatically prideful, but some people have a lack of comfortability due to trust issues when it comes to one another. I think, that was something that was programmed into it. But it's like, for an example, right? We already know how it is. You got brothers that's in the truth that sell different types of merchandise, but we'll go, you know what I'm saying, to something that's manufactured, you know what I'm saying, by big corporations, and we rather buy from that, regardless of if it's more expensive or not. Then another thing is some people is just comfortable in their captivity as well. Like, you know what I'm saying, you got people that know how to, do certain things, went to college for certain things, went to high school, went to trade school, went to job corps, you know what I'm saying, or they just, you know what I'm saying, from somebody in their family, whatever. Right? But the point that I'm trying to make is they got some type of trade, they got some type of skill. But instead of opening up a business for themselves, they rather go get a 9 to 5 making less money because they just comfortable. So I feel like a lot of us are just too comfortable, and a lot of us don't trust one another. We think that we can't be successful at nothing because a lot of us haven't seen us be successful at anything. So they just rather stick to what they comfortable to, which is us just being divided, everybody being in their own camp doing their own thing, things like that. So I think that that's another big issue, not being comfortable and not trusting one another.
Right on, bro. Right on. Well answered, man. And I appreciate y'all brothers, for coming on. And Ashriel, I appreciate you for coming on here, bro. And when I get down to Israel, we're gonna do some work. We're gonna do some work. I got some stuff planned for you. I ain't gonna talk too much about it, but Amalia, she in the mix of it. So, you know what I'm saying? We all, we planning some things, man, to get this work out, man, and to do this work, man. It's important. Like you said earlier, before we even went live, like, do we have a choice? Do we really have a choice? You know what I'm saying? We don't have no choice, especially if we want to change these dynamics. We don't have a choice.
and we don't want a choice. Because if you have a choice, what you're gonna choose not to do it?
Yeah. Right on. Right on, man.
But I gotta run, big bro.
All right, my brother.
Man, it was a blessing being on with y'all, with the brothers, and I'm just looking forward to for us to continue to build on this platform. So, once again, blessings on the new platform, my brother, and the ideas, and the expansion of this idea with the other brothers in other places. And yeah, we got work to do. We're gonna do that work, but I gotta roll.
All right, brother, you good. We going anyway. Shalom, everybody. I'm about to end this live. Shalom.
Shalom. Hey, Anayan, shalom, bro. Forgot to say what's up to you.